walk around there with a big old basket full of rolls. You want a roll, put your hand up and they throw it to
Oh,
you.
really?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, great, you gotta look at there's incoming everywhere there. You know?
What you don't do in this place is stand up, because invariably you're gonna get hit.
God, I can't believe I can't say the name of it. I used to stop there all the time with my truck.
It's a diner in
Hold that
Chicago.
thought, it's 9 o'clock.
Don't I have time to think of it? It
Or
is 9.
we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just trying to cover for you also.
Okay, this is,
Absorb it later.
yeah,
Consider for approval minutes and agenda.
Motion.
I'll second.
That motion from Stender, second from Jensel to approve the minutes and agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
It's,
75-30 or
70, I can't remember where our little sheet go. Somebody stole it. It seems like it's 75-30.
give it a shot.
Give it a whirl.
It is.
Hello. We're ready for you. Okay.
Now you got me thinking of it, I'm gonna have to look it up.
It's a name, like McClintock's
Yes, I wanna say Sammy's, but that's not
That's
it
the
either.
name of the restaurant?
I can't say it.
Oh,
That's what I
you
can
know,
think
the
of.
town, not the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Morning.
Morning.
What do you have for us on roads today?
I don't have too much today, I guess, just business as usual out there. Guys were out yesterday and dinking around with the snow, that little bit of snow we got that was kind of blowing and settling down in protected areas and whatever, but last couple weeks have been kind of decent since the holiday break, I guess. Last week, I guess, is all, but
Yeah. At least this stuff was a little fluffier.
yeah, kind of dusty almost.
Anything else? I have some people that have been concerned for some time now on 150th or 155th that leads to 150th, just outside of town here. When you go north on 155th, then it curves from that Twister Creek up to the curve. We've talked about this before, where we feel like the ditch needs to be cleaned out because the integrity of the road's being challenged. I've got farmers that use that road that said it was in pretty bad shape this year.
From the creek to the curve,
Yeah.
I believe that's the city's street.
City Street.
150, no, that's 165th. 155th.
First corner west of town.
Oh, by Dr. Felt. And yeah,
I've got a large farmer that uses that road a lot.
yeah, I know. It was bad this spring and it was probably bad this fall. I didn't see it. And I agree it's bad. And we had it on our list to do and even talk to the NRCS about
When you say do, you mean what?
to clean the ditch and pull it back toward the creek. It's kind of a big project, and we weren't able to get to it this year. The history I got is that, you know, there's the big pump that was down there and had been used for years and years and years and years, and then that went out and they were using a smaller, like a sump pump kinda, to pump it for a while, and then they put that ground on that side of the road into CRP or some program, so landowner had no longer an incentive to pump. So now the water sits there rather than being pumped, and the symptoms are the land kind of further north and further west flood, and the road gets soft, and
Whose pump is it, the farmer pump?
it sounds like the farmers had pumped, and now they're not doing that anymore, so now it looks like the problem's falling on us to figure out a solution for it. And I think the only good solution is to dig that ditch deeper. Which I'm not sure if it had ever been that deep, but because it had always been, you know, had the pump to lift it up and get it going, but if we just need the gravity flow.
Makes sense to have gravity there.
Yeah, I mean, gravity,
So,
you'd think it'd
problem with
be
the
less
road.
maintenance. I mean, obviously we can't be running pumps. So, a frustrating problem for sure. Solution that we're leaning toward is digging that ditch deeper, and we had every intention of getting to it this summer and didn't get to it. We were kind of catching up about all year long after, you know, the snow drew us into about May. But so I feel you on that, and I've talked to Chuck Holland and Riley Lewis about it. And I know their feelings too, I guess.
Well, there's a bigger farmer than that that's the one that's complaining now. So
Let's see. Is it Lewis's that farm to the west, and then a different one to the north?
one to the south,
To the south.
Thompson's. But yeah, I heard from the other two.
Further, looks like they got the first quarter there.
Oh, that's an old man. Well, he's got south of the highway there, doesn't he? He's got both sides of the road with 155th.
Yeah, for the first half mile, quarter mile. And then it's just Hollins and Feld up there around the kind of where the road curves, right? So, I guess they have an issue. I'm not sure if it's a separate issue or we're talking about the same thing, right?
Same thing. But the road that deteriorated.
They're using the road. That's what they're concerned about, yeah. Yep.
He has other drainage issues that we're trying to resolve. too.
Sure.
All right. Anything else?
It seems like there was one, I can't remember, it's supposed to get off easy. Lambert's Cafe.
That's it.
Okay, so now you can move on to your next stop.
Yeah, no, I saw it. Yeah, you- the other one.
Anything else I have? Nothing that I know of. All right. So we'll move on to auditor's office. That's 7511.
Mhm.
This is Chris.
We're ready for you.
Okay.
Thanks. Hello. Do you have anything for drainage today?
I do not. I didn't go out to the DD11, and now it's kind of cold, so I didn't want to go Or maybe wait till tomorrow when it's
They're
warm.
out there,
They got 2 hoses out there tearing trees out.
Yeah.
It's nothing out of the ordinary yet.
And I didn't know if they were even out there the last 2 days.
They were working, the day I called you was that Friday?
Yeah, that was last week. Yeah, they were working. I just didn't know what the cold weather there yesterday or today if they did.
The working hose, I don't think that they can just
as long as they can get them started.
I see the claims that DD12 repairs in there.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me, there was a meeting of DD12 trustees.
Okay.
And I guess I'm on the trustees.
You have to be elected. So when the
Yes.
election comes up,
They said that, talk to Norm.
well, they still have to follow the rules. I know.
Well, then talk to Norm.
So,
I was supposed to tell you,
yep, that's good.
so you need to have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
I'm just passing on the message. Because
God,
their third member was not in the county anymore,
Right.
so,
The election's coming up the third Saturday in January.
all right.
And I don't remember who's
They
up this
can't
year.
have special elections to replace somebody that's not, no.
I wouldn't think when it's this close to the election. Yeah,
You
because there's,
still have to post it, right?
Yes. There's
that I don't know. We haven't had one since I've been here.
no, just the regular election.
We've had the regular, and they post that.
Okay,
Yeah, that will be sent to them shortly.
all right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't deal with them much, so I don't know
No.
what their rules are.
Right.
Another question that came up is, are private trustee districts bound by the same laws that we are, where if somebody submits a petition for repair, they have to repair it?
They're supposed to, but they're the trustees. And most of the time, I don't know about them because they go right to the trustees.
The issues in DD10. That issue I talked about the other day that
That,
needs to be cleaned up. So,
on the
where
where we
which
annexed
is
it.
now, probably that area from where it's now DD11
Mm-hmm.
outlet for DD10.
Right. Well, that will be part of the project when they clean that. Right now, they're just doing the trees.
But we're talking about past the road though.
Is there trees past the road too?
I thought so.
I don't recall that.
Well, can you bring up on my phone?
I'm just gonna say,
Can you just bring up,
Seems like when I was just driving to it, I don't remember that there were trees on the right.
what the ditch looks like.
Where, let's see. Give me a name. Is there somebody close?
Who lives?
Amerson's.
Yeah, Ambersons have property there. Emerson family.
Any of those?
No.
I just pull up the map.
Alright.
That's what it is. Like, they're spread
Oh,
out
well.
everywhere.
Well,
3.6 is super close. So, what do we have for last year? Here's the one that's involved, so
Should be like 390th.
let's
150 or
just grab it. So,
Sears Blue.
so this is this area right here. Kind of zoom into that a little bit. Now, drainage.
And I don't think Sue has that drawn in yet. That's part of 11. Oh, she does.
Some of that, this stuff's
Once you click your X up on the left side underneath that there, upper left, click that X, get rid of that, the choice of the X to the left.
Oh, this,
You get rid
sorry.
of that.
Okay.
And then drag everything this way. Where's 160 at?
Should be right here.
Put your X down in the bottom corner.
Mm-hmm. 13.
Put your X down in the bottom right. Okay, so that's 160th. Drag it more to the right.
I don't see a lot of trees.
So drag more to the right. Now zoom in. Okay, that's the DD10. So which part did we just annex?
All of that.
All from the fork on down?
Yes. Because DD11 comes down up to there, so we annexed all
DD10
that.
comes from the southwest, meets DD11.
Can you make it a little,
Chris.
bigger?
Chris,
Just click on the hand thing up there. You aren't going to be highlighting things. So zoom in a little bit more now so you can see the condition.
Yeah, I don't
Now pull it to the
see the
right.
trees.
I want to see what DD10 looks like if he's talking about that part. There's some trees along that there.
Like right in here?
Yeah, I think there are a few there. I was wondering at the top of there. There was some there.
Like up in here? Well, right now, we're only doing, the project is only to do that part to the road.
Okay. So if he wants anything done, you'll have to go through his repair.
Well, but the repair will be, once they figure out what they can do, if they can straighten it, whatever, we're gonna clean the whole thing. From
Cleaning, yeah.
here, and that would maybe include some tree
So
removals
where
if
is
they
the
needed
end
to.
of 10?
Where the tile outlets, right there. Because that's their natural, I mean, that's their tile into the natural waterway.
Oh, so it comes all the way over to 150th then?
Yes.
11.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess,
that starts 11 Lower Main right here,
okay.
all the way to the river.
It says 10.
Well, it's not supposed to be. Because unless we reclassify 10, which we were not going to do. That's why 10 is just a tile system.
The old map, see. The old map shows. See, on here it shows DD10 goes to the fork.
It's only ever been a tile system. That open ditch was never, hasn't been part of 10.
This old map shows different.
According to the trustees, they only have tile.
You have to research that a little bit. Because that might be a point of contention between landowners.
Right. And I can look at their old history, but
We don't have much trustee history.
no. I mean, and to my knowledge, it's always just
Do
been
you
that.
have maps of DD10?
I suppose, yeah.
We can check that to start with, what the original DD
Right.
I mean, they don't provide the minutes way past, trust me, never did. Do they have them? You know?
Maybe.
Sure.
I would guess that if one of the property owners requested, they have to provide it.
Sure. I'm not a part of their meetings, I don't know what they have and what they don't have. So, yes, they are supposed to. I just don't know if they do.
All right. All that question answered. Anything else for drainage? All right, thank you. Discussion with possible action regarding medical examiners, examiner suites.
So we got a letter from the clinic. And Terry, you said you talked to,
I talked to Dr. Carlson at the gas station the other day, following the Rembrandt situation. Sounded like they had, 16 or 18 hours into that incident. He doesn't even come close to covering that. I'm just wondering where are we at on our budget for
that?
that part of it, 54.
I think it would be nice if somebody would come in and explain to us.
Yeah. I know there's a process to go through for the examination. I know Dale's talked about it before, Dale Rayons. They're saving some money by allowing a paramedic to do it. I saw there was a fee on the last claims through the funeral home on that one.
Mhm.
How that was involved. Was that one of those where it's somebody that couldn't afford it, so we,
I don't know.
it wasn't the full amount we've allowed, but it was $500. I don't know what that is.
Chris is, maybe we should call Chris back in here because she gets the,
This is Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea. We need to talk to Chris again about the examiner fees and one of the claims submitted this week.
Okay, I'll send her in.
All right, thanks.
mm-hmm.
Now, is it the paperwork you're talking that's taking so long, or?
Yeah, it sounded like it was 16 or 18 hours on that incident. Of course, that was it.
You wouldn't think that their end of it would be good. They're not performing the autopsy, are they?
Yeah, well, so we have to pay for, if there's an autopsy, we have to pay for the examiner's fee, we have to pay for, sometimes the funeral home will come get them and,
Do their thing.
yeah.
And the one thing he was talking about here, the amount of paperwork involved at the state level, that's increased dramatically, which we all know because everything through the state has increased the paperwork. So we're talking about examiner fees, and we noticed on the claims that, there was examiner fees, and there was also a fee from the funeral home,
Oh, that's for transportation of a body.
just the transportation.
Mhm. Yeah.
I know it wasn't the full fee if we were gonna.
No, that's just transportation, and by code, we have to do that. And then if somebody dies in another county that was from ours, we have to reimburse that county and vice versa. And we pay all autopsy fees, things like that. Sandy Morales would take care of funeral home things, but that's her deal. I just pay the transport.
So is this all we've used for,
Think we've had more than that.
I feel like we have, but maybe not.
Seems like I've seen quite a few come through.
But you know, if we haven't had a lot of autopsies this year, so, just since July, but we've had a lot of medical examiner fees at 150 apiece.
it depends on the year. I mean, there are years when we exceed that budget
Mm-hmm.
way over the top, and then there's years that, like
Right,
this.
right.
So,
And thankfully, we haven't needed to have a lot of autopsies.
It was a busy week this week.
So,
Who does the autopsy? Medical examiner?
yeah, in Des Moines, Ames, one of the two, yeah, the state.
You get to see it.
Mhm.
So nobody locally does it.
No, they all get transported.
So that 500 was to get somebody down to the autopsy.
Yes. And that fee will be about $1,600.
Probably all the way down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, $500 one was
Just to get them there. And I guess to get them back, because I never get another fee, so it must be a down and back fee.
So what's the
so
1,600?
that price is.
The autopsy?
Mm-hmm.
That's less than that.
So one case can tie up quite a bit of it.
Depending on what they have to do.
Who determines, law enforcement determine an autopsy?
The medical examiner does. And sometimes the family. If they feel like they don't need one, then they maybe don't, but there's certain circumstances that they'll have to.
Well, I guess I can feel for them for the amount of work they have to do on this, paperwork they have to do to satisfy the state. $75 probably isn't enough.
Well, I suppose it all depends on Dale, doesn't it?
Well, there's some of them are through Carlson and
Well,
No, but whether he's
if
gonna take.
if Dale
over.
goes, he gets 75 and actual ME gets 75. So Dale's done all the work and gets 75. And this guy has done nothing and gets 75.
well,
Or
he
if
signs off,
Officer
he goes
Camp
to
or
the-
Carlson go, they get the whole 150. And I do see where they have a new form. They're thicker now, there's many more pages to it.
Is that a statute or administrative rule, you know?
It just started, so I'm assuming that the state has changed that.
One of those unfunded mandates.
Wonder what
And
it is that.
it's probably simpler, because then it's easier for them to go the manner of death and go right through that, and everything's right there. You don't maybe have to explain more.
Is this under DHS or who is this?
I have no idea. I'm sorry. No, medical examiner. Oh. Yeah, I'm not sure who. A different unfunded.
Well, if they're not gonna do it, we have to address this, you know.
So right now,
It's like it's a take it or leave it, offer here, so.
State would step in and just do it and charge us if we didn't do it, if we didn't have.
No, we're
anybody.
still going to do it. It's just the
No,
form
I know,
changed.
I know that.
Yeah.
This letter sounds like we're not gonna do it unless there's a readjustment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't seen the letter. I don't know.
And if they didn't do it, would the state come in and do it and then charge us, whatever?
I don't know how that would work.
because by code, we're required to pay for these. So there's gotta be some provider that would probably have to do it.
I don't know.
How soon we go?
They they wanna know by January 1st, because that's when they want it to be effective, or not, it says.
Is that something you can check on quick? mean,
I don't even know what you guys are talking about since I walked in, so.
The caseload paperwork for the medical examiners to submit has gone up dramatically.
Okay,
And they want to double their fee from 150 to 300 per case.
okay, the medical examiner does. And what do you want me to look up?
if we can't find somebody to fill the position, does the state come in and do it and just charge us whatever they want?
I would say they'd probably file a writ of mandamus against us and force us to find somebody to do it. That's what they'd probably do. That's just off the hip, but
I kind of feel like we're really short on medical professionals right now. I don't want to rock the boat too much with this. I don't want them to hold us over a barrel, but
Well,
It's
it's
just another
not, it's not,
discussion.
it's just another unfunded mandate by the state.
I was gonna say, it's not them holding us over the barrel, I mean, unfortunately, it's another paperwork thing, just like the county nurses and all their paperwork, and it just keeps getting more and more intrusive, and we spend less and less time with patients and more time with,
I wouldn't do it for every 100. I mean, you called out at 3 o'clock in the morning, said,
so, I guess I would say that that's probably our only option. It says we're going out down there, and I don't know what else we're gonna find in the county that's gonna do it, so.
yeah, I'm not opposed to going over for that. Something we talked to Bruce about.
So I'll make a motion to approve the request to increase the fee from $150 to $300 for medical examiners.
I'll second it.
So a motion from Derby and a second from Jensvold to increase the medical examiner's fees from $150 to $300. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Could you stamp that approval form, please?
Jeff?
and on their way in, this is 10, and it's a tile system to the road. But on the map, it says there's a ditch. So, but this is all it shows, is a tile. And it said that they went across the road.
Okay, they outletted across the road.
Yeah.
Good morning.
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 It's a winter day.
Yes,
Brisk.
Yes. Appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. This is a colleague, Heidi Cool. You met Heidi.
Yeah.
You're down at
Oh, yeah.
several
We've been
times.
down to an administrative role.
Yes, yes. And so it's been the majority of the past week is finding out all the details and where things are ending up. But I think we got a lot of good news this morning for you, and the possibility of so that you'd be able to do this and not have to borrow money. So that's what we're going to sort of shoot for. But first of all, I just wanted to get you sort of up to date. Yeah, that's upside down. Sort of what we had projected on TIP and where it's going.
Before you get started, we had a question come up
Sure.
yesterday at our compensation board meeting. And that question, they're saying because we have such a high percentage of debt per capita, when they set those numbers, does that initial number when you borrow, say 20 million, does that 20 million stick with you until it's paid off, or does it drop each year?
It drops
Okay.
as you go.
Each year.
And well,
do
you want to go ahead and hand out those other?
when it comes to your, like borrowing future money, it's not looked at as the original value of the, like when you look at the county's debt. I read something once where if you borrow 20 million and you've paid off 10 million of it, it still shows on the books that you've got 20 million out there for reserve.
No, the only thing is we did a couple advanced refundings back in 15 and 16. Those, when we do an advance until the call date, that overlap, now those call dates went off, but until you pay those off, till that overlap, if you're doing a refunding, that counts, but I think it'd be good, being you're asking those questions, let's
Yep.
go ahead and switch to this document, and you can sort of look.
So those years look probably really bad when we overlapped.
When you,
Well, but still, when you look in the big picture,
Right.
you know, you're a smaller county, but with the amount of, if you take this document on it says page 3, just flip over, it says page 3, okay? These are all of your debts. The first column of white, you know, is our 100% valuation, and then that shaded green is your legal debt limit based off valuation, okay? So that's the legally how much you can borrow. You know, we're at 60, you know, plus $1 million. So we got the 2016B, which really refunded our 2010s. And then we got our 216A, which is new money, 15, the 12. And then you got these two small issues that you just did, you know, on the courthouse. And I threw some projections in there, but that's immaterial. But you look to the right, so your total debt, we were up to 26 million last year. You had 60 million available. You hit a 43%, which on a county level, that last column is, you know, you were up, as we got to the point, you know, we were close to 50%. If we look back a couple years, you know, we were there. Which on a county level, that's a high percentage compared to a lot of counties, but it goes by percentage of valuation. You know, if you're a much larger county, they got more valuations in residential and stuff, but they might have as much debt. But percentage-wise, I guess to answer your question is we are, you know, we're, you know, in fiscal year 18 is 43. We're going to be moving in the next fiscal year. We're actually going to go down below 40, 36%. And you can see how quickly it starts paying off. So to answer your question, you can see in that third column to the right, the total debt, it goes down each year. All of your debt goes down as you make the payments. So no, it does not count. To answer your question, it does not stay.
So it'll probably change our rankings in the state as we go down.
Yes. Yep. It will.
What is the percentage to valuation of the legal debt?
5%. 5% is the legal, yeah. That's 100% value, not the taxable. 100% with ag, less military is how that's figured. So that's sort of a big picture. You can see everything tied together with that. Let's just real quickly, let's go back to this other document. We'll come back to this. And this, we don't want to spend a lot of time, but just want to bring it up today so it's going to sort of make sense when we started talking what our option is on the courthouse. And I just need you to sort of get a handle of where it is, so when I start talking, here's basically, you're narrowed down to maybe one option that we can do that's within the law. And so it'll make sense after we look at the big picture. This first page, this is what we did. No, this is an update. Let's go to the second page. This is the same thing, but this is what our last projections when we did the wind turbine, the new road projects, and the phase 1 and phase 2 towers. If you look basically in,
it's about in the middle. You're looking at the combined phase 1 and 2.
estimated property
Yep,
tax.
estimated property tax, combined phase 1 and 2. At the bottom, it says 45 million. So that's the estimated taxes of both wind towers, and you know, that was the estimation back in 2015.
And then,
You look, you know, at that estimation at that time, since we didn't really know where the consolidated tax rate would end up. You see, we used a 2189, and still fully funded these two, you know, 19.2 million and 5.2 million issues. Your consolidated tax rate is, you know, between $24 and $25. So instead of that 2.9 million, you're really bringing in about 3.3 a year, 3.3 million. So if you look at that unused TIF column down at the bottom, that 11 million, that's that unused TIF million. You rerun those numbers with what the consolidated tax rate really ended up being. You're ending up around 16, 17 million of unused.
Yeah, if you look at the front page, this is how we updated it from the original. And from the original, when we set it, we did it very conservatively when we set up using the consolidated tax rate of $21, which is up in this column right here. Now we're using, the actual is 25. So I guess when we get all said and done, you look at the new page, the last column down at the bottom, we've got over $17 million of dollars that's in that TIF fund that's uncommitted. And we're collecting, the thing is now, you can see, we knew right in the beginning, we were short money. You see that unused TIF at the beginning, we had negative, we had to borrow money to pay interest, till it all got up and running, it was breaking even back in 14 and 15, and now you can see we've got $1 million that's coming into your TIF fund. That now it's creating a balance, which we can use that and grow it to pay off the bonds early. Or what I'm going to start talking about is being able to amend this plan, do your courthouse, and actually use cash to pay on this project rather than borrowing any money.
That's right. That was my question, is we probably have to amend.
Yes, you have, when it comes down to, let's talk about that. I mean, last week, I talked with Carl, I said, hey, we got this project, and it's like, well, there's not really an option when we start looking at the courthouse. It ties in what you did in the past, and you've got some plans for next spring. We're way over the legal limit for essential purpose bonds. And so when we look at that, how do we go to financing that legally? Because basically you have to go back to a vote to the people if it's over $600,000. And I know you say, well, is it by fiscal year or calendar year? The code on counties, and it should be changed, but it doesn't state years at all. It states per project. And then when you look at, re-tuck pointing or doing whatever, here it is, it's a project cost. And so, and I know Carla talked with Bob and Justin with Dorsey, talking what can we do to get this? And our suggestion is to you is to amend the urban renewal plan and put the courthouse renovation into that. And then once we amend it, we can use this unused column that you've got, by the time you pay bonds, we've almost got $3 million available in the TIF fund right now that's already collected. So you can pull that out of there and spend on this project. But we have to amend the plan and state the use for it. We can't. No, go ahead.
Does that show up on our budget that every fiscal year, that 3 million, the excess?
Well, it's showing up in balances. It's not really.
Right. No.
So what we're doing right now, and this was the thing, and as we started this, that unused column, we had to file, and Carla did it right away. You file it one time, right away, that debt, then you automatically get all the value that brings. To the point now, though, see, when we were at 100,000 over 500,000, we were just getting caught up for all of our last. Now we're into that second year where we got $1 million a year that over and above than our debt payment. So we've got two things we can do with that. There's three. First of all, now that you're over it, you can file at the December 1st report to reduce that only to collect the amount you need, or we continue to collect it, and then when the call date of the bonds come, we'll just take that money and pay those bonds early.
Where's that physically sitting right now, at 3 million?
It's in the TIF fund.
So it's it's strictly in that, and you can't really transfer that to the general or any other fund. I mean, and the only thing you can spend that for is debt that is through the amended urban renewal plan. So instead of going out borrowing now to piecemeal this project, you know, and you're limited to 600,000, which we've already sort of went over that, or we're gonna be going over that. And then you've got finishing a project to do next spring. There's really not a way to do it under the essential purpose. So then the other option is to go to a bond election, or the third option, which we do on a fair percentage of counties, on that we're doing on amending the urban renewal plan to use the TIF. Now,
So really, the only thing that enters in for us is politics, really. I mean, we want to know, they're gonna ask, well, how come you're using that excess? You know, because a lot of people don't even know what we're doing here at the courthouse. So,
right. I mean, otherwise, if it gets to the point of you're either gonna have to add new debt,
yeah,
or pay off these bonds, because we're gonna have to keep track of this, because when it comes to that date, if you collect over what you certified, which was the first two debts, which was the, the 18 million and the 5, or the 19 million and the 5, once we go over that and the interest, and if we don't cut back or have another project within, we're gonna have to recertify backwards to the taxing bodies. But it's gonna get there quicker than we think at $1 million plus a year. So, but to fix this problem that you have right now, as large as it is, over 600,000, the only legal way is to amend the urban renewal plan. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to use the TIF dollars to pay for it. You can still, we've got counties that don't have any excess TIF or anything, and they need to do a project. So we're amending or starting a new urban renewal plan for economic development for the sole purpose of, so you don't have to go to an election. You know, that you're getting it done, and then they're still maybe using debt service or general fund or some other fund to pay for it. So you've got the option.
so the TIF is just a guarantee.
The TIF is, it's called Urban Renewal Area Economic Development, which basically in the courthouse is, you've got to have this building in order to do all the tax records, to do all the collections, all this. Without this, development couldn't go on in the county. So this structure is an economic development project that to continue, for things to continue to go
We'll
on.
have to amend to get to that.
But yes,
So what's currently acceptable, it was the roads and bridges we did.
that's the only thing that we
The
have.
original roads and bridges. If we had more projects,
You'd have to amend it. You're gonna have to amend now with the new, it changed the law in 16, 17. You have to, before, when we did the first one, we just did blanket. We just say roads and bridges, you know, in the county. And that was good enough.
I think that the history of that is because of the gas tax increase. They wanted to make sure we weren't tipping and getting the gas tax to pay for our roads.
So now you have to amend specifically, and we have to state the exact projects, like, 5 miles of, 240th Street, or, or the bridges. In this case, we would have to amend to do, the resurfacing of the stone in the courthouse. And I think the next thing is on roof repair. I mean, we'd want to state all those improvements. And if you're going to amend, as I was talking with Carly yesterday, is I think you should sort of think down the road 4 or 5 years of, okay, now that you're caught up and we do have excess here, is there any other, I'm not trying to say to say spend more money, but is there projects that need to be done in the 3rd, 4th, 5th year that you've sort of held back on waiting for funds,
Biggest project is lowering taxes.
Well, that's another, but I mean, the flip side, is there any roads, is there roads that need to be done?
Well, there's also economic development to be done too.
Well, and, you know, when you talk about raising taxes, you know, come 2029, 30, these TIF funds will end. It's a 20-year life,
That
so,
was the biggest seller.
you know,
Doing this project.
and so when you're looking to amend the plan because, you know, for this courthouse project, if you've got something coming up in the next 5 years, you're bringing the bond attorneys in to amend this plan, get those in the plan. That doesn't mean you have to ever take any of these funds, but it's a good time to get everything in there so that if you're ready, if you're ready to do another project, you can go ahead and take care of these.
No, we have projects to
You
do.
the engineer?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's,
We have our
There's some
development
paving
too.
projects coming up.
well, that's the other thing is, Carl, we was talking yesterday about the general fund, which has been tight the last 2-3 years, is anything in, which started is, you know, you probably paid some cash out of general fund to start some of the improvements on the courthouse.
That's where our fund balance went.
And so maybe let's start shifting anything that we're taking out of the general fund. And that's why I wanted this discussion today, as you go into budgets here in December and January for the new budget, whatever you've been doing out of the general fund in the past, anything that we can do as economic development, use these funds and loosen up that general fund.
And that can provide tax relief. itself.
It
In
is.
itself, yep.
And so the other one is, a lot of counties do their economic development grant that they do the economic development board. Do we do those? I'm just saying that could be an option. When we go to amend, that doesn't say you have to pay it with the TIF dollars, but whether the engineer's got some roads in his next 5-year budget that you may want to do, it may make sense just to do, rather than pay a cost again for an amendment a year from now, if you could put it in, and then it leaves the door open when you're doing budget for next March, is saying, okay, how tight is our general fund? Do we want to use TIF fund to pay that economic development grant? Do we want to, any other project that we were doing on some buildings or something that we were paying out general, we can use these dollars.
Well, I'm looking at, one of our biggest things right now is housing. We have big housing prices. Is there anything we can use with this money to help that situation in one form or another? If we've got a building we'd like to get rid of, maybe some of this money could be incentive for somebody to develop something either on that lot or out of that building. Then we don't have the burden of taking that building down.
Mhm. No, it's been used on a limited basis in counties for housing economic development, but it has just started probably interest in the last 2 years.
Very big shortage of workforce housing.
I mean, Mitchell County has been very aggressive on a housing program. I mean, that's as aggressive as anything out there.
So does that rule stay static throughout the TIF itself? Can you, say we budget to do some of the cost of the repairs out of the general fund, but we decide in the middle of the budget year to, we better use a TIF. Can you still do that then?
If you amend the plan early, ahead of time, and have it in there, and then not do any expenditures, and that's what we talked to Carla yesterday, if we want to go, we can go back 60 days and do some of the expenses that you've already paid on this here. We can't go over 60 days. So we need to, so I'll just step ahead of what you need to do, because you got some bills that needs to be paid coming up. We can't do a reimbursement resolution until you would set a hearing to amend the plan. So if you wanted at next week's meeting, you could set a public hearing to amend the plan. Probably, probably wouldn't get it done until first week of January or something, when time we hold the hearings and get the bond attorneys to do the work. So we would set a hearing. At that same day of setting the hearing, bond attorneys could have a reimbursement resolution for you, which means that the intent of amending the plan, you go ahead and pay the bills that are going to be due here this month. And anything going 60 days backwards from that can be reimbursed when you finally pass the amendment to the plan. Then, once the amendment to the plan is done, then we have to hold a hearing for debt. So in this case, I'm suggesting we do internal debt, because you've got cash, rather than borrowing. If you got this much money, we really don't need to borrow outside money, but we still have to hold a hearing, just like if you're gonna borrow at the bank or do bonds. If you're gonna do it internally, we gotta do the same hearing.
So in essence,
It's,
is it borrowing from the TIF?
basically, yes, we're using the TIF cash funds for that up front. Carla's gonna file that as a debt for next December, and then that can be added on to the existing, and so future years can be whatever the amount that we hold a hearing on for that. So, right now, we would look at, if you're gonna move forward, finishing the repairs on the courthouse and the roof in the front and whatever the past, that would be a dollar amount that we would get, and we wouldn't wanna use it, a little cushion not to exceed, because there's little cost runs. Then the other thing that would be possible in your budget that we looked at is the economic development grant. If you wanted, we can hold the hearing for that amount. That doesn't mean we're gonna take it all. So that would be, to answer your question, Mike, in the middle of budget, you go, economic development grant, we're short here. Let's maybe use half general fund and half TIF. Even though you held a hearing for all of it, you don't have to use it all. And I just want to give you some tools, so when you start getting into the budget, you've got some options, rather than, then it's too late when you're in the middle of budget to start doing some of this. That sort of making sense a little?
Well, it's a whole switch as we do our budget process. You look at the years that we struggled and had to borrow just because the debt, or the debt from the TIF is higher than what we were getting in on the TIF. And now we're at it.
It's flipped.
And we have to plan accordingly there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be nice to let it keep flip-flopping so things get paid down sooner in a sense, but,
We have to have that balance.
this is a ball, as far as the courthouse expenses go, it's been kicked for the last 100 or some years, so all of this.
So it's coming at an opportune, I guess, in an opportune time where you can do it without borrowing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the good part of it.
And I kind of knew this day was coming, we just didn't know it was here already.
Well, that's where I don't wanna, that's why I asked that question. And deceive is not the right word. I want to see the public, because we really are borrowing, in a sense.
We're borrowing our own money in a sense, kind of.
I guess the thing is that we've got the money sitting in the fund, and we could use it to pay down the TIF debt that we have. But if we do that, we're gonna have to borrow for this. So we're gonna raise the taxes.
I agree, but I don't want to mislead the public either.
We'll have a public hearing for the.
Right.
No, I know that, but
No matter what, we're, however we do it, we gotta pay for this, and
that's not the question.
it's just a little more complicated way to explain it now.
And you don't have to pay any interest. You borrow from yourself at no interest, and you're gonna get it back. But the flip side is what.
Well, the interest will come in as the fact that we didn't use it to pay down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But here, this 17 million that's down here in the corner, if, right now, once we get to the point, we get enough in that fund to pay off the bonds early, there's gonna be that many dollars up till 2028 or 29, 30, that's unused. And you're gonna flip it around, and you're gonna have to turn it, and then you'll go to the taxing bodies, it'll go to the assessed values. If there's anything in the future let's talk about roads, and most every county in the state has got major problems, and they need funds, whether it's just even getting rock down or repairing roads. If you won't need to get some projects done, and we go past this year of the 2930, it's done. You can never go back and recapture. It's gonna go back to the taxing bodies.
Everybody else's portion we can't recapture. It's just,
No, but
we
even-
still have our portion.
You're gonna have your 40% that's gonna go in, but yeah, you're gonna have an increased value.
But our debt should be gone by then.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be gone as you look on the page. Most of it
All those tax
rolls
dollars
off.
straight into the-
Well, you could only use the balance, right?
The unused
Yeah,
balance,
the
Up to the date.
yes.
Yeah.
But if you don't use it,
No,
and you've got all these projects that need to be done, so I mean, you're in a position really to pay off a lot of these debts ahead and do this project with cash, and you probably could do, I'm not just saying do it.
don't say it.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at it, you're in an easy position to borrow $5 million for road projects and still have a considerable cushion. And if you don't do it, those road problems are still gonna be there. And then what are you gonna find? Yes, what source are you gonna find to do them?
So what's timeline on something like this then?
Okay. So if, to amend the plan, it's gonna take, especially with the holidays, it's gonna take a strong 4 to 6 weeks.
Plus, we have to have nailed down exactly what we want to put in.
Right.
So that's gonna take a little time for us.
I mean, even let's just say you did the basic courthouse and you're not ready. I mean, you can always do another amendment, but I mean, it just makes sense if there's any other things you wanna put in there.
Now's the time.
I mean, it isn't gonna cost you any more for Dorsey to add, 5 more lists to words it's gonna be the same thing. I mean, if you use Dorsey to do that. And I will tell you, I mean, I've worked with all bonding firms, economic development, particularly on courthouses. Dorsey will get you there the fastest, easiest, and without roadblocks that I will definitely have. If it was just a road project, all the other firms out there is not a problem. If you're gonna do it economic development on a courthouse, I'm not trying to tell you somebody, but they're the only ones gonna get you there.
Well, I've already talked about, and so.
So you're comfortable
If the board
moving,
is okay, we'll use, go
okay,
ahead and use Bob, because we've
especially on the courthouse.
used him in the past, so.
Okay. So back to the timeline. If you'd set the hearing, Bob's on vacation the rest of this week, but he said he would get documents for your 17th meeting if you want to move that way. He would get, or somebody in his staff. So you would, basically, you're just going to set a date, and I don't have, is there a calendar here? On Tuesdays, as you get in, we set 17th. If we're going to use TIF dollars, and not, if we're just going to use it to use a tool to get bonding and say you want to use debt service, we don't have to do consultation meetings with the school district. I mean, that's part of all the taxing bodies that are out there, school districts and townships. As you can remember, we did a consultation meeting. So that takes another meeting if we're going to use TIF dollars. If we're just going to use it and then use debt service, we don't have to do those extra meetings. But let's talk the full route because we've got the dollars. So if we said 17th January, probably 7th or 14th, you would, if you want to spend some time and get those other things, maybe even the 14th of January would be the date of the public hearing. The 17th meeting again would be, we're going to do a reimbursement resolution so we can pay those back bills and get reimbursed, and everything is due this month. So you can legally spend those from the general fund, And then once we get through the 17th of hearing, that's just to amend the plan. Then we'll set another date to do the financing. That'll be the dollars amount. So we've got another month to really come up with those dollar amounts.
That's done it on capital projects.
That's fine.
That's fine, okay.
But you put the money in capital projects from general fund. See, ultimately, we want to get back to where, you took those funds from. But yes, that was the best way to transfer them general, put them in capital, pay for them, keep track of that project.
Okay.
Yep. So then, let's say we got 4 to 6 weeks to amend the plan. Then basically, we got another 2 weeks to hold hearings on financing. And then at that time, after you hold the hearings on the financing, after it's amended, then you can legally now pay bills or anything from those balances that we talked. And you've got, what was it, 3 million in one fund and $1 million in the other?
I think so.
Yep, but then we gotta pay our bond payments in next April. So we got a solid $3 million to pay for this courthouse project.
Okay, so, I'm still trying to wrap my head around, when would we have to know the extent of what we're gonna do?
Amend it, what you wanna put in the amendment is, if we go to the 14th, let's just say we do the 14th for the hearing. He's gonna probably want that in that first week of January. So that, the documents, because we're gonna have to have it in the document that we're gonna have to hold a consultation probably the week before, the 14th, so the week of the 7th.
How many times have you done this way? Just,
More than my fingers.
What's
So actually-
the philosophy of the people in counties that have done it? What's their philosophy towards that number of what we want to manage? In other words, go to the max or let's be judicious about it?
It's not so much the number, it's what the project is.
Right.
It's that's really, when we get down to politics on TIF, it always comes down to the project. So, courthouse improvement is an old historical building. They have not been a controversial project. Roads have not been a controversial project. Once we start moving to maybe conservation sometimes, nothing against conservation, but housing, that can go all over the board. There's some that's just totally for it, and others that's dead set against it. So, to answer your question, Mike, on courthouse, it's not so much the dollars, what's the project, if you've got the money, if the cash.
Well, see, that, not everybody looks at it that way, if you got the money. Well, if you got the money, let's,
Well,
I guess it goes to conservative and liberal.
Well,
Spend it.
no, I'll tell you this, put it this way, is you're in a position where you got cash balances and a cash flow. I've got counties that are amending their plan with no dollars. And then they use this plan and by a hearing, they're actually raising the debt service levy. So you're on a scale here, you're over here in a very, very conservative cash flow, tax.
I understand that.
As far as being able to, because if you were gonna fix this on your other role that we were gonna do essential purpose, you were gonna put this additional tax on debt service. So you were gonna raise taxes to finish this courthouse.
Right.
So I'm looking at,
So that's not what I'm getting at. That's gotta be done. But when you said you want to probably be liberal in doing that, so you don't have to spend it. But usually what's put in that amendment gets spent.
You only want to spend it on projects that really need to be done.
That's right.
A lavish new office for the supervisors may not be, you wanna go into it with the attitude of spending as little of it as possible. Just do what needs to be done, and there's lots of things that need to be done.
I have my own opinion on this, that I think we need to utilize the funds here that are excess to either pay and or pay off our debt early, or find other projects that we feel are in
That
the
we would
best
be
interest of
incurring
the
debt
county.
for anyway, so.
Well, or that are in the best interest of the county to be of value to it.
And that will always be in the eye of the beholder, always.
I don't wanna give up any of this, turn any of this back. I wanna either pay it off early and or do other things that.
Well, that's an automatic, that will be used to pay off early if we don't use it.
Well,
That's an
you gotta
automatic.
be careful about it every year. You gotta make sure
Yeah,
you're covered, so.
Because it's gonna catch up where you got your fund balance more than the cal date of what the bonds are, and then if you've over collected, then you gotta pay back the taxing bodies. But I'll throw another thought into you, Mike, about it. You're talking about conservatively keeping taxes low. The thought that I like to throw out here to supervisors, not whether you're internally borrowing or I come in and finance you, if you take all of these dollars and do projects that are long-term infrastructure that need to be done, you're not raising tax or anything. If you don't use those, you put that dollars back to the general fund, the rural services fund, to the township funds, and the unbalance to the school aid formula that ends up going to the state. But I've sat on your side of the desk as an elected official, and when we do budgets, and you've been up against them every year, whatever the taxation at the $3.50 goes to your value, everybody's budget fits that. So if we take this money back and put it into the general fund taxation, automatically operating costs, high percentage, just automatically come to whatever that 350 comes to. And it might work for a year or two, but it all follows back to here's our value. So if you want to really control taxes, you'll put this into long-term needs that need to be done and keep it from being operated away annually. When you start thinking that, you go, oh, this is the more conservative thing to do, is to get, and I'm saying only doing long-term project and a road project, courthouse. If you don't do them today, they're going to be there tomorrow or 5 years. Somebody's, as a supervisor, is going to have to pay for those. And if you don't use it from here, you're going to have to do a debt service, and you operate these dollars away. So all of a sudden, let's say we start giving this away 10 years early. So 10 years from now, that 350 limit has got a lot larger value to operate away. Whether if we used it all here, we've held them in line at that lower taxation, and you had to operate within that budget. And 2 years ago, you were tight in that general. And if you would have had more value, you would have used it because you would have had to.
Does it also depend on inflation and who it hits the hardest, whether it be operating or the taxpayer?
Well, inflation is always going to affect
No,
operating.
But land values might go down and operating might go up, so there's a lot of variables that go into that.
And you've got all of the rest of the value of the county to cover that. We're just talking the values of the wind turbines.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing that's the unknown. Let's say you don't TIF this and you use it in your operating budgets, and we get at the end of it, we're going to assume that value is going to go to the taxing bodies. What if the wind turbine people say, wind is obsolete, we're going to some other generation, and they tear down those towers, they take that value away. And if your budget's been used to that and it's gone, you talk about a hardship. This way, you're really protecting that future operations, by using those for projects that need to be done. Not whimfully.
That's a net argument, because if it's gone, it's gone.
No, it's not. Not if we put in here, we've got, what is it, 400 million, and you're using the 10%. So you've got the $40 million of value that has been used in the general and rural fund, that, because the turbines are paying for it.
Right.
Now, let's say they tear them down at the end of it, and they're not gonna restructure them. You're taking that 40 million, that's a loss of value, and you know what it's
Yeah.
like when you do a loss of
Well,
value.
what difference does it make whether that's board, you still gotta pay back.
Because then your budget's the same, and then you have to ask a higher tax rate for the existing taxpayers.
Well, your budget's gonna be the same no matter if you had those turbines or not.
Not necessarily. I don't think it would be.
Well, that depends on the 42 to the board.
Yes, it does.
The good news is they just put all new turbines on, generators and blades on them all.
So you got 20 years.
So I'm guessing they're not gonna scrap them right away.
The only thing I can see that might change this is the way they tax turbines versus the way they tax solar. I get the feeling solar is being less taxed than turbines. It's a whole different structure.
Well, solar's under the utility excise tax. And you voluntarily used the ordinance to bring this under property tax. And that's the only reason that you can use this, is that property tax ordinance that you put into place.
I need that explained to me, because I'm not getting it.
To which part?
What you just went through,
Yeah.
if we end up getting used to spending that tax dollars, what difference does it make, whether it goes away or not? Under both assumptions, whether we do this or we don't do it, what difference does it make? We're gonna have to readjust our spending. If it goes away, it goes away, we're gonna have to.
You either readjust your spending or you raise the levies.
Right. So what difference does it make if it goes away? It's going away under each assumption.
No, not necessarily, because like Bill just said, they extended the blades and the generators. They're gonna be there for a little
I
while.
know they are. But you've got, we doing our budgets, we have to assume that money's gonna be there. Okay, if it's not, we gotta adjust no matter what, correct? This
Right.
is what I'm not seeing yet.
Well, what I'm trying to tell you is if you put the money out there, the budgets can get inflated because you have the value.
Or we have the money and we foolishly spend it. Because we're used to that money coming in. And what I'm saying is, that scenario is there whether we do this or we don't do it.
Well, go
The
ahead.
difference is when you have capital projects with that end date in it, is that it's got that end date. Once you build that road, you pay it off, that debt is done and completed. If you have excess dollars going into a budget, that's coming in every single year. So that, the essential difference is,
But maybe I can explain it this way. If the windmills disappear right now, today,
Mhm.
we'll be less.
Your general
Yeah,
fund,
yeah.
your general fund, right now, if they disappeared today, you wouldn't have any effect because, let's assume your debt was paid off. Because
No.
your general fund has not been used, you have not used any dollars in the general or rural fund from the wind turbines.
But it's gonna be, we still have to pay the debt,
Yeah, and that's what it's paying for right now.
right? And if that disappears, we still have to pay the debt. So then we're gonna have to find the money somewhere.
Oh, I see what you're saying. If they disappeared and you'd had the debt.
So you really can't use that argument. Chances are they're not going to, they better not put it that way. Chances are they're not going to in the near future. But to me, I just needed it explained. To me, it's a wash. If that happens, if that's the scenario that happens.
Well, we can go, I can tell you about
Then
that.
we'll be right back to the way we used to do it and paying for it out of everything else.
Right.
Because, right now, we've got the luxury of the TIF and the turbines to pay for
We have
things.
more coming in now.
And other counties that don't have turbines are taking it out of all the rest of their.
Which goes back to my argument is how judicious will the board be in spending that extra money? Well, we got it, let's spend it, you know? That's a dangerous philosophy.
That's not what I'm telling you, is,
No, I know.
what I'm telling you
I see
is
what you're saying.
what are real capital projects that's
What are the
facing?
expenses that are coming no matter what happens?
That's right.
And we're gonna be paying for them one way or another, or we gotta, like this, we gotta shut the courthouse down if we don't take care of it.
Well,
But,
isn't it human nature to say, we've got an extra $3 million a year? These roads could probably, I shouldn't pick on roads. Well, the courthouse could go another 5-6 years without getting repaired. Okay. Now, there's a lot of nuances that enter that too, how much it's gonna cost down the road. But it's easy when you got that $3 million, let's spend it, let's get it done, you know?
Let's only
And
spend
it doesn't
on what we have to.
necessarily have to be done. And that's
True, but
the dilemma that I look at.
But it's gonna cost some supervisor some year down the road, and
Exactly.
some engineer.
Like, for me, correct me if I'm wrong, the argument or the discussion boils down to, you know, let's say for construction project for roads, and I'm not advocating we spend it on roads, but I can do a project now, taking advantage of the full combined levy, the $25, whatever, or I'll have to do it in 5 years, trying to pick off the rural levy by itself just to the county. So those dollars go a lot further, taking it from the TIF debt than the levy later that we can get just through our normal county rural levy.
You'd get about 38 cents to 40 cents on the dollar versus taking the whole dollar now.
So I guess to me, it seems like the decision is, you know, how critical are construction projects.
That's what it comes down to. That's what it
And
comes
we
down
gotta
to.
look at.
Could we get by for another 15 years on a road, or should we fix it now and have it be a cap?
And we gotta look at your balance on what's gonna be federal aid or state aid projects.
I mean,
and
if we look at, you know, the forecast from when our original resurfacing projects from 2009 and 10, when we did the big year where we did 45 miles or whatever it is, those are coming around, most of them, the ones that are asphalt, not concrete, those are coming around in 2028, 9, whatever. So if I have funds, my federal funds and my FM accounts spent down to do projects over the next 10 years, they're gonna be empty when we get that big chunk. And that's a gloomy picture that
That
I'm
was
trying
bad
to
news,
avoid.
I'll fix them all at one time.
Well,
It doesn't,
yeah, but, you know, where else were we gonna get it? So, just,
But the good news is, you look at this and, you know, our debt will be much less by then.
yeah, I mean, later on we'll be, if we retired the debt earlier, we'd get these small chunks every year to try to save up for that, but,
Without having to burden the rest of the taxpayers.
yeah, so I see both sides, I guess, and whatever, if you ask me to find projects, I sure certainly can.
So you don't have to, I guess thing is, first of all, let's just look at the courthouse right now. Maybe you just want to amend for it, and you can always amend later for, if you feel rushed on some of the other projects. You know, if you got to spend a few $1,000s on an amendment
That
later.
wasn't my argument.
Right, no, but I'm just saying, but it's part of
Because I
it.
agree with you, do the amendment.
And so, but you got to know what project to put in there.
Exactly.
Well, and I think, you know, the point is when you're looking at all of your options to fund the projects you want to do, you want to make sure that you have to do, you only have so many certain tools. And this, you know, this is one of those tools. Your debt service is a tool.
Let me put it this way. This meeting is for the courthouse, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Now, all of a sudden, other projects are getting brought up.
Just to save you money on amendment, and that's the only reason it is.
How much does an amendment cost?
Ballpark between 5 and 10.
if you're gonna do it once.
I mean, unless you feel rushed. I mean,
Do you understand? that
but you are under a timeline for the courthouse.
Use these funds to pay that.
Pardon? Yes,
Jeff, you understand how I feel this could snowball?
Yes, but the thing that's nice though is when you do the amendment and you do the hearing for finances, it's required to put the dollars and the project. It isn't like, oh, we're just gonna do $10 million of roads. You gotta specify the exact bridge, you have to specify the road. In here, you gotta specify the roof. So you're telling the public, it isn't like, in this amendment, you're telling potentially, and I just threw out the economic development grant that you're paying general fund. You're telling exact project what it could be. It can't snowball any more than that unless you do another amendment. So,
But by doing it this way, on the things that we have to do anyway, I'm not talking, projects that go in, oh, wow, this would really be nice. It's things that are gonna be done anyway. And
I know, but when we did this $19 million TIF, we presented it to the public that this was gonna take care of our problem for a few years at least. Many years is what we said.
it has.
And it has, yes. And we also had a plan, correct me if I'm wrong, that we have a 10-year plan of fixing our bridges, of fixing more roads in 20-year plan. I agree with you that you have to specify which projects, but, you know, they can get pushed up unnecessarily.
So you're saying that the initial repairs was all that was in the plan? Not any ongoing projects?
there's no plan right now.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering.
Right now, you got what was in the plan before, we can't use that general spending on roads under any new debt. The
I
new,
didn't know if there was a grandfathered term in
No,
there that.
no, there's not. So now, if you're gonna put any new dollars that's in this column, we have to hold a new hearing and be very site-specific.
I'm not against it.
For future projects that we were gonna do anyway, we could actually do it this way and probably even practically lower taxes at the sites. And, because we wouldn't have to have that money for future projects come out of the general budget.
That's just robbing Peter to pay Paul. If we spend the money, we gotta pay for it somehow. So
Yeah,
it all gets back to that.
But it's all money, to me, it's all projects that were gonna be done anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not talking some kind of a wish list. What I'm saying is that projects that were gonna be done anyway later can be done now.
What are we gonna do with that money that we budgeted for that? We can get cash relief with that?
Yeah, no.
Well, you know what, this is a board discussion.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, that's another.
That's another, I guess, yeah, today is, I'm sorry we got so far off on other
Yeah.
projects, but it needs to be discussed. I mean, and you need to know, really, that flip that we were in negative for 5-6 years, and we flipped, and now it's at full force. And we have to, I mean, you gotta give Carla a direction by next December, really. Are we moving forward on prepayment, or should we start reducing the asking?
Yeah, it just, the point today is now that it's flipped, here's the capacity that you have. And, we didn't want to get you down, but since that capacity is here and we wanted to update you on it so you know that's where it's at. If you need to do a few things, if you need to do the courthouse, we kind of just let you know where those TIF fund balances stand at this point.
And real quickly, the rest of this packet, it's really, the details of it is all the individual debts. You can look and how they're paid for, that all really tie to this page, and then page 5. Page 5 is the other summary. If you want to look at, this looks at all your debt, that first square box, first 4 columns, and how much is paid from TIF, how much from debt service levy, and the other is Is that road what do we,
That's just the 600.
oh, that,
That's just that projected 600,000.
okay. We didn't put that, we didn't put in either.
Under other,
Yeah,
under
that's,
other.
that's. a
That's the
projected
new
six-
debt. We didn't know whether you wanted to use TIF or debt service.
just said
This is
scenario.
says page
Page
5.
5.
Page 5, so this is really, now if you look at all your debts, all together, is here. This is how much is the annual payments. You can see after 2027, they really drop off. They paid it. This is how much is paid from TIF, and this is how much is paid from debt service, and this is your debt service levy. So then the other is all the supporting individual debts that tie to this. But this is really a good document for you to really study and look at
So
in
under
budget.
this document.
Yep.
What scenario are you creating for that 600,000
Well, we would be putting it under,
under TIF?
we would add another, so we're basically gonna, on this page, put in a 2,000. Well, no, we're doing internal debt, so we're gonna use, it's not gonna show up as any, it's not gonna add anything, because it's all taken from cash.
Right.
So there's no additional debt
That would
payment.
be non-existent.
Right, we
Yeah.
pull that one out.
Yeah, you pull out that 100,000 in the other, but that TIF is paying off your 2015 and 2016 refundings for the 10, and also the 12 new money. That debt service is paying off the jail.
There's no way we can tie the TIF to the jail.
No.
Not backwards, if you were going forward. But no, we can't, anything past 60 days, you can't go back. If there was an addition or something to it, but not anything on the existing. So, the only other thing I want to just briefly on this page, it's got these two.
What page is that?
It's got that is the other document, this one. If we just go to the third page, it's the color page. You know, I've done several deals with you and talking past, and I just want to briefly say how I come to the bond market, you know, because I always give you whatever that goes to the market, and there's so many ways that somebody else can come and say, hey, look at the fees and this costs too much. Ultimately, where we want to go is here is the yield, whatever you're rated, these are the market rates where we're going to get you interest rates. And how we do that, there's 4 different ways to get that. If you go to this next page, I got them highlighted. Ultimately, when I do a bond deal, the bottom line is down below is getting this interest rate. In this case, this was your 2016, we refunded the 10. I got you a full rate after paying my fee and everything at a 264, okay? And that's where the market is. How we get there, sometimes somebody might come up here and say, oh, gosh, you had 130,000 in a discount. Go, that's way out of line. Well, then you come over, how do you get that? How do you get this rate? If we charge less discount, I've done deals and we've done publicly. We bring that down instead of 1.3%, do it at a 0.5%. Then we charge higher rates on this page. So we'll go to, just to show you on the next, be the last page of this. And this is the actually deal. What we did is we actually sold coupons here, but this was the real net effective rate. And this gets you, with our fee and everything in here, we sell premiums, and that's the other, if we go to this front page, we raised you there was a $10 million bond, but we gave you $10,083,000. The banks gave us, in doing this, in getting this discount and this whole thing together, we actually got you $80-some thousand of cash that you never had to pay back or pay interest.
Last time.
Yes. And so, I don't want to go into a complicated finance deal. I want to tell you is when I'm here I'm gonna get you the lowest rate. If somebody wants to pick out a fee or something else, I can lower fees, but then we raise rates here. And then, so when things go to the bond market, the
Your cost
key,
of doing business is the same no matter which way.
we're all within hundreds. And I never pick up, all of my competitors are good, and they're good. And I always don't tell this because I build a relationship, but sometimes we need to understand is, if somebody points out, oh, we just pointing out this fee right here. You know, right here, the 130,000 was a 1.3%. The rules in financing is anywhere from 0 to 2. You know, we did a 1.3. And I calculate that. Also, is there's no other finance advisory fee. Some people, they have finance advisory fees. When I show you this 2.64, that includes everything that we do, rating and all that. They don't have to put their fee in to this calculation. They say, well, we still got this, but then they change several $1,000s, and if you add that in, it's not. And I'm not trying to be against anything, but you need to understand, you know, how these dollars all come to get to a net interest cost. And ultimately, what I'm trying to get you is, what is your payment, your lowest payment, and what's that interest rate compared to a bank? And you know, if somebody just looks at a fee, we did auction or competitive RFPs against other companies. What's your lowest fee? Well, you bid, all you do, if you just bid a fee, it doesn't, when you bid a fee, you don't have to bid an interest rate. So then all of a sudden, I got a low fee, but I got to get it sold to the marketplace, so I got to put a higher interest rate because there's not as much money to get to the banks. And so, financing is complicated. The thing is
One way or another, they're gonna get it.
the thing is we want to get the lowest net interest cost with all of our costs involved, and I do that with our banks and the banks that buy, is the more higher discount I can get, the lower interest rate they bid.
And it's the most transparent.
It is. Everything that we have to do as an underwriter is 100% transparent to the bond world. If you do an FA work, you only show the rate, you don't show the other fees in it. And I just wanted to point that out, because maybe sometimes you say, oh, have I been treating you fair in the past? And I just want to, you know, fully say that. And then with that, it's no different. We've not recently, but through years, we've had a lot of conversations. You know, I don't charge any fees for any advice. Like today, we're not going to do a bond deal. Presented it. We're going to come in here, just give you information. You don't need to borrow money, so you don't need to pay us. And so.
So how are rates now compared to when we refinanced?
Well, if we look at this is the actual rate, that colored page here. So we're going to be in the, I think, what are we, 8 plus? This is our column right here, 8 plus, right here. Then if we look at the rates that we financed this one in 16, today, on that yield.
They're a little bit better at this right now. Rates have dropped, yeah, not much. In the last
So
year,
yeah,
they
so we would
dropped.
compare this column here in 2020, we're 160, we're at 145, so rates are just a little. Yep.
You also have the, you have pricing.
Not much to be had for refinancing, right?
Not on that one, no. Now, the 2012 is coming due, so if you look in this one, 2012, what is it on your debt book?
2012 in the debt book should be page,
Because we'll see the individual interest rates on this page. Keep going back.
I believe it's page 9.
Page 9. So these are the rates that are on the that's will able to come due next summer. June 1st.
So you're saying.
These are callable June 1st.
Okay.
And so we would compare these rates to what's on that chart page.
You know, then, you know,
Or the flip side is, even after you do the courthouse, you may want to, we do the courthouse, there's nothing wrong in getting that balance down, Carla, to a couple $100,000. We could go ahead and pay the long ones all off with the cash after you do the courthouse remodel. Go ahead and use that cash and then pay these off.
Use those long ones off. This also does have the highest interest rate associated with it.
Right. That's what I was talking about. Some of these we can pay
Yep.
off early.
So that, yep, so I would pay the back end ones. And so you're gonna be in a position to pay some of that off on these bonds next June.
And it's just a 30-day call notice.
So if you get to that point and wanna do that, once we get the,
Serious discussions.
yep, so if we get the April collections, you'll get the new money, Carla, on this next April. Pay for the courthouse remodel, and then let's look at our balances, and if we got enough to pay part of that off, and then just start paying that down.
Makes everybody feel warm and fuzzy.
So, that's sort of what I wanted to cover. Did I cover enough or not enough or too much? Does it sort of make sense?
Yep.
So I guess from here, I need to know, do you want Bob Johnston to prepare documents next week to set a hearing and do the reimbursement? We don't have to know what's in the hearing yet. We're gonna set it to amend the plan. And then also that reimbursement resolution needs to be done in order to pay any new bills. So do you want those documents for next week or not?
I think so.
Okay, and from there, then you can decide in the next 3 weeks if you want to put anything in the amendment besides the courthouse. I think we just stirred the pot a little today. That doesn't mean you go either way with it, but at least the minimum, we'll look at what it takes to clean up all of this project. No. So no, I've enjoyed working
Can't
through.
believe you would wanna be a devil's advocate.
No, I've enjoyed working through the years with you and want to continue any way that, even like this, if I can find an option where you don't have to borrow money and you don't have to pay me anything, that's my first choice. I mean, that's where my heart is.
You don't pay bills on that.
But I do have that great farming career also, so it's been good that I've had the farming with it where I don't have to, if I have times where I'm not making anything here, it's, I can still eat. Now my daughter, she can't. Yeah, I think you knew she was my daughter. And I just didn't hire a good-looking girl. I brought my daughter in. So.
Well, unless she was your daughter, she probably wouldn't be with you anyway.
There you go. No, it's.
Oh, no, that's me.
So brain behind the family.
I'd like to think so.
So no, whatever we can do in the future to help you out, this has been
Is this the engagement letter you want signed, or?
Well, we don't really,
Do that?
if you're not gonna go into a debt, I mean, I think you can hold this, but I don't see us doing anything.
At this point.
And if we're gonna use cash, now, let's say you amend down the road and also, well, engineer here, you wanna do some road projects and get a little more, and actually get a road project and we do a bond issue, then we would do an engagement letter. And those numbers would be off anyway, because it's what, $400,000 deal.
Yeah.
So I see no need for you to have any financial engagement letter.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, when we get in specific, right now we're talking general things. I can give advice on all these kind of things. If we get to a specific financing, I need an engagement letter to continue to give you advice. But right now, I see you just doing an amendment to the plan. Get that, I'll guide you through that. I can arrange all that for you, Carla. And, I'm not gonna send you any bill or anything like that. It's part of what I do. And if we need to do something further, but I can help you when you get to the amendment and the hearings, because there's several steps, and I'll guide you through those. So, any questions? Concerns? Anything you want to wrap me out on? Why don't you give them the
Do we
goodies?
need a motion to
Probably some type of indication to just to have Dorsey start preparing next week's documents is what I would suggest.
Entertain that motion to move forward with documents to Dorsey.
Make that motion.
We'll discuss it.
Okay,
Ready?
Did you second it or?
Don't have to be, no, Bill did.
I made the motion, we need somebody to second.
Oh, I'll second it. Does it only have to be specific to that, Heather?
No, because we don't know what it is yet. You have to.
That's right.
See, this is, but I always pull out the things that really.
Reach you.
Read the motion.
The motion is to approve Dorsey and Whitney to do the, what's it?
Amendment to the, setting a date to hold a hearing and to get a reimbursement resolution. Those are the two items. Then that,
We'll do other motions later to put content into it.
right.
Okay, do you understand? All right. Motion from Jim Sheldon, second from Century. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you both.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Hopefully things are a little more clearer now on our direction.
A little more clear and a little easier than we had anticipated as far as what's gonna have to happen
Different type of burden.
Yep,
here.
yep. So whenever we have that, that's why there's numbers on here. Call first.
I've learned my lesson.
It's good.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Been a pleasure.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Or maybe you just want the Donna.
No, don't have me in it.
Okay, we stand forward right here.
Hey, you're doing a good photo.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry.
Just-
Yeah.
There you go.
You're not gonna be in all that, nope.
One more. Okay, and then I just
Yeah,
need
yeah, no,
for the,
oh, they're good.
Bill, if I had my cup, I'd go like this.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like
Throw me one of those.
a gal at the impeachment hearing.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
You live close by?
I live in Waukee, so I got a little drive, but,
Now we have a little energy.
we have Northland has a
There
office
you
in
go.
West Des Moines, so I work out of that office there and then on the road
Did
a
you
few days a week.
Pops out in time?
I got right before Thanksgiving finished up. So it was, I haven't went that late.
Was it in your area, have some trouble getting? I thought
Some did, I mean, yeah, it did. If you didn't get it in, I got mine all in April, but of course I don't farm as much as a lot of guys, and then it was basically almost June before they could get back in. So it's been an interesting year.
No, yeah,
Yeah, that's an understatement.
yeah. I hope it doesn't happen again.
Guaranteed next year will be different. That's all that I'll guarantee. It
You
will
know
be
what?
different.
Every year the climate changes.
Yes, yes, it does. Every year. it does.
What I understand, predicting what happened many, many years ago and predicting what's gonna happen in the future, that they still can't tell you why the jet stream changes. They have no idea.
It just says.
Nobody can predict the jet stream changing.
It's true. And sunspots.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, sunspots.
Merry Christmas.
Solar.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
How we doing?
Thank you.
All right, so we can move on to number 7. Consider for approval faces in the block. I guess I formed an opinion on this, that if we're gonna do something with them, I'd rather see them in the original state for the purpose of restoring our original courthouse. There wasn't that much difference in price between something in a bronze and something in a stone. I think it's worth the investment to keep it original.
Whose faces we're gonna put in the stone?
I think we have to stay with the original.
The original,
I think
meaningless faces?
if we change anything at this point. We're opening up to the historical people to come in and
Challenges.
Well, what would that do? Just take us off the historical?
I
We
don't
may have to
know,
pay back money if we ever got it. I think you're bound for quite a while if you've ever gotten any historical grants.
I can't believe that little bit of change would make that much difference.
I hate to see us have to go in and make a change later, but we know it's gonna be very expensive for folks to do so.
I don't see it, I don't care either way, so.
I think it has some tourism draw, it has some aesthetic anomaly almost, because it's not really the way.
Do we even know who they are? The faces?
They're supposed to be like kings and.
The one looks like Plato.
Yeah, it looks
From
like
what
it's-
other-
yeah, we're gonna do some research on it to find out. Maybe easier to get the original picture in 3D or something for the guy you use rather than the original faces.
Means we're the ones who gotta make the decisions. I can see no reason why our faces are not on those things. But that's it.
We've had some nominations for people who could be on there that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
I think we either put it back the way it was or leave it flat. Maybe.
Yeah, but if you make them flat, wouldn't that be in violation of the?
Yes,
Yeah, that's what I'm
probably,
saying.
that's what,
We need to keep it original.
I don't
So
think-
if you're gonna make them flat, then you just as well change the faces if you want to, but.
I don't think we want to.
Well, if we're going for being frugal, I guess, we'd be leaving that. Here again, either way is fine with me.
But that would be just as much of a violation as changing the faces when it comes to the historical perspective, so.
So my opinion is we should just put it back the way it was.
With a little more fine detail.
Bill, it's up to
Colors,
you.
things like that. They look
Well, I
like-
guess gonna vote me all day long. I guess, I just can't believe that the historical, aspect of it would change that much if we, how would they know what faces we changed? The faces are still on there, that's still faces. I mean, it's, my only thought was is putting some people, legendary people from Winnebago County's faces on there instead of,
We'll say this, if it is Plato, I'm not a big fan of Plato, so.
no,
I don't think that was one of the names that was brought up. I guess I'll make a motion to approve, replacing the faces with the original.
You said it. Are we gonna put a cost in there? Well,
It's,
we can discuss it.
It's like 60.
Yeah, there's a motion on the
$60,000,
floor, I'm sorry, I did this. I'll second that.
Okay, now we can discuss it.
the amount was $16,215.
I guess that would be my only negative to it. But, do we have a rendition of what it would look like, just flat?
The only thing that's, there's the arch that's right outside the door is flat.
With a shape like that. But it also has, keystone or whatever above it that we probably have to add to make it work better. So there's gonna be an increased cost there if we change that.
Did you check a price like on a Starburst, just a simple Starburst?
Basically, it's gonna be the same thing because the only person who does it is the guy that's up there.
60.
whether he carves a face, or whether he kind of carves a starburst, or, I guess if you have meaningless faces, then you don't have to fight people who should be on there.
Question.
Questions been called for now, please vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carries. Consider for approval not having a board meeting December 23rd or 24th, 2019. At this point, if we don't need one, we can always call a special
Sure.
meeting if needed to.
Ah,
Pretty good.
I
Make
bet.
that motion then.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Got a motion from Stenzer and a second from Jensvold to not having a board meeting on December 23rd and 24th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Rescind motion to have public hearing on December 23rd for general obligation bonds. We all know why we rescind that.
Make that motion.
Second.
A motion from Stenzer and a second from Jensvold to rescind the motion to have public hearing on December 23rd for general obligation bonds, which we are no longer going to do. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
And the chair.
Consider for approval transaction resolution for CSS.
This is the amended one after Kelsey looked at it.
What did you change on it?
That, third paragraph from the bottom.
Okay with that?
The whole thing has been drug out on purpose, so at the time that we just absolutely paying for fund balance to be done.
Can you give me a 10-second synopsis? Which I read it.
Oh,
Basically, it just says that anything from Fund 10 is going with
First of the year.
the first of the year goes
first
to
of
the
the year,
region.
we gotta write a check to them. Because they're from their employer record and they're gonna deposit $16 million in their own account.
You never told me that I wrote a written check.
It's not gonna be in our. The way I understand it, they're gonna have all funds in their own checking account. There's nothing to get out of here. $16 million. I saw the meeting last week, so they can pay their bills. That's their own entity.
Either one giving more thought or just taking them on?
I don't know if we're in a position right now that we want it.
We'll never want this.
We have to be a member in good standing in order to get out and for us to have a care connection.
We are.
Yeah, that's why we don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah, we will get to leave with 2.3% of the assets of CSS. And the sooner the better, because right now.
Assets or fund balance?
Fund balance and assets, so cars,
That's
computers.
what the agreement says.
Yeah. And, if we leave now, it'll be, 230,000. If we wait until June, it might be down to 130. Depends on how far it's been fund balance.
What's their date say? What do they say?
Well, they want to do the whole transition because it'll all be easier to do, June 30th. Because there's a lot of things that have to be done. What we gotta do is get, because our intent to withdraw is now and the fund balance is this much. Does that stay retroactive or do we have to give whatever he's got left after he's done? Because he's calling it one-time spending money again.
Did you ever talk to the people that was getting this is
That was on a phone conversation yesterday morning for 2
What's his thoughts? Since he's so into it.
Just moving on. Assume he's gonna take care of their debt, and part of it will be with the fund balance. Their percentage is 3.3 something.
That's what they're gonna do. And then get out.
Yes. You can't get out unless you're a member in good standing, so. You gotta be in good standing. And, I mean, it's the whole thing is legalized stuff, that's what it is.
Well, that's just it, and so, I mean, with that,
But,
that would be part of the challenge, wouldn't it?
yeah,
Getting out in good standing. I mean, just because we challenge it doesn't mean we couldn't be in good standing. Unless we don't pay.
unfortunately, we signed that 2080 agreement, and I don't know what our position would be to, I mean, we could argue that CSS is morphed into something that's completely and totally different than when we signed that agreement, but then we were all there the whole time. Did we vote no against some of it? Yes, but it doesn't matter, we're still part of the board that went forward with it all. So our legal standing isn't very good, our moral standing is very good. Or our ethical standing, more maybe really good, but legally,
I think our efforts are better spent somewhere else.
it's time to let our wounds and walk away.
You give up the fight afterwards.
I don't want to, but then when you start talking, you know, lawyer fees, you might even, we'll probably have to hire somebody besides our county attorney to do it.
I'm sure
Unless the 3 county attorneys.
every step of the way we'll have a challenge.
We have felt very strongly about it, and everybody involved has. So in essence, we're saying, go ahead and keep screwing people.
In essence,
Well,
we're-
in their region, they can do that. We're gonna move on, so.
And they're gonna be not having our money anymore to help fund their thing. They're gonna be into the world hurt problem.
yeah, they're gonna do some, unless they quickly change, which it sounds like they're gonna get rid of the continuous board. The legislature sounds fairly positive on that end of it. Whether they would, lower the bar for creating a region, is, I guess that's still relatively doubtful. But, I mean, that's what should be done.
If we get into a smaller region, I'd be happy to just do it, not to take this, be their focus.
Because, Emmett's gonna wanna stay with CSS, and but they do have another choice now, they don't have to go with us. Because of Dickinson leaving and, the other county leaving over there, they actually can go to, the one to the south, which else?
Well, it's OCO, I think, instead of going to,
Sioux Rivers, so they can also go to Sioux Rivers, or is it Sioux River, no, what's the other town there? Can't think of it. I can look that up. Doesn't-
well, it sounded like subdivision.
So they have another,
Director,
and
that director's retiring, so.
well, she's gonna stay on, they're gonna try and talk her into staying on long enough to get this transition in place. And, and because, those guys didn't want that back. It's one of the big, I mean, Kasu's debt thing was one thing, but I think he wanted it back because there was no love lost between all parties when the whole thing fell apart before, and then they came over to CSS. And,
Well, I'd like to get back on task here, looking to the transaction resolution for CSS, are we for or against it?
I'm before you go on this. And I think the speed going down.
allowing Bobby, I mean, she's gonna retire soon. The whole change thing.
Could have got out of the year sooner, we're gonna hold over.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll make a motion to approve the transaction resolution for CSS.
Jen's holding a second. Stand here to approve the transaction. Resolution for CSS as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Open forum. Anybody have anything for open forum?
Yeah, I do.
I see there's one cup left.
Okay.
I'm assuming county claims there was some bill that had to be paid right away.
Yeah, the TV and bangs has to be paid by the 15th, so it's tuberculosis and
All that.
there's
Okay, all right.
something fun for the,
I see there's TV down in Franklin County.
really,
Yeah.
that's a bad deal.
I wonder why.
It's got in yesterday.
There's a whole bunch of stuff. Did y'all get my message about Tyler yesterday?
Yep.
Okay.
You get it? The tires all in.
Teller Technologies,
Like, you know,
it'll be on the agenda for next week.
do you think they got a lot of resolution figured out?
I think so. Ron was here this summer and talked to Julie about it and told her that she needed to talk to so-and-so counties and all that stuff. I don't know if she did or not. I think, it's gonna save us, just in fees, it's gonna save us $10,000 over the next 5 years if we do it before December 31st. It's also gonna save us, they've raised their, for 2020, they raised their hourly fees, $5. So if we do 150 hours, $5 an hour savings is quite a bit of money. So I hate not to lock in, and I told Ron yesterday that I am not doing a conversion during the general election, so if he wants me to sign this, that he won't do anything until fiscal year 2021. But it locks us into the prices for 2018.
All right. Anything else for open forum? Hearing none. County claims, anybody see anything in there? Any concern over? Cars in there, or the truck, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Dave is going to give, my apartment, Brett's Explorer, so we can use it for drainage, and we can use it for, elections.
Oh, okay.
So
You
that,
can pull a trailer with that?
yep,
Okay.
so that we don't have to use a secondary road truck every time, or try to make, so, I just need to figure out how to transfer the plates and all that stuff, and I mean, I'll probably need to get a detail, because with Brett's, and there's like, they say there's like 10 inches of dog hair in there,
You can
but
leave the sheriff thing on it.
I don't think he'll let me do that.
Will you
I
do
really
any
like it,
signage on or
but.
Will you do any signage on it, out of the office or anything?
I can't see a reason to, unless you think that I should. I
Well,
save the money.
what was the final yesterday from the, top board? Talk about next week.
The
Chelsea
Chelsea
was first.
was 7, Dave was 6, supervisors, treasurer, auditor, recorder, all 4,
Okay.
plus a $500 stipend for the
Election,
elections.
500, you said?
Mhm.
So attorney was 7, sheriff was 6, supervisor was 4, the other ones were what?
We're all for
They're all 4.
it. But then the elections had $500 stipend. All right.
And they didn't change the $1,000 stipend, so that would still be the same as well for the chair.
So in the section of code, election stipend is in the same consideration as chair stipend. Okay.
A lot of county auditors get stipends for either being the secretary of the board
HR.
or HR or budget, so it's just a different way of.
Okay. So do we have a motion on the plate?
Yeah, I think I did. Well, I was gonna, but I didn't.
Second.
Okay, motion from General, the second from Stenger, to approve the county claims. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Payroll claims.
Are you serious about taking these stones up there?
Yeah, I can do those in that. When do they have, will they be ready?
I don't know, I'll have to talk to Dave and let you know.
Just keep me updated when that is, because I will.
Okay. Because that'll save us $1,200. Or $100, or $5.
I'll have to talk to the staff head or which truck I have. They have one that has 1 ton spring, and I have one that's half ton spring.
I was guessing you were 1 ton, but
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
stone.
Those cases.
Oh,
Terry's gonna, if Terry takes them out, it'll save us some money.
I even been in this guy, and it's so cool, yard, they have all these fucking things down. There's architectural salvage places up in the city that want to
Have you ever gone to that
do it.
place in Des Moines, that in the old warehouse and
Oh,
it's got like all the antique?
Overpriced.
Yes,
Very
very,
overpriced.
it's got really cool stuff.
I
There's another one in there, but there's two pages.
Kitchen sets. And, I have 4, retro metal kitchen sets in the school. They won't maybe stock them, but they'll have somebody that wants to buy them.
is that the one, 2 pages?
These,
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so. It should be, yes, 2 pages, so we have to stamp one.
don't know, if, just stamp it, and it'll make it.
Alright,
Yeah, I'd rather have 2 stamps than not enough.
I guess one more signature won't contribute to your writer's cramp too bad.
I was thinking the cost of the his stamp is the cramp.
I'm thinking about the auditor asking me why the one stamped and not the other, so.
I don't wanna have to come in and sign it and then have to stamp it. One page and that'll be the one she opens up.
You're not feeling lucky, punk?
So did anybody do any fingerprinting from all those stuff? Try and tie that guy to it?
No, but there was a rash of thefts that went through, like Wells and some other town too, the same, they just ransacked all vehicles looking for cash after that, so I'm guessing it's probably not.
Okay. The last Tuesday night, Thompson,
Oh, no.
access.
Including mine,
Oh, no.
in my garage,
In your garage?
in my garage.
Is your garage locked?
But you had no cash.
It was, yeah, and then they emptied the center console out of the Suburban, and, well, they didn't take everything out of there, but, there was no cash in there that I know of. And there were all kinds of movies in there,
That was a
and unless they found one they really liked, and we don't know what was in there, most of the movies were still there. Leaky was, I shouldn't say on camera, his pickup, they took $60 out of it and left 2 shotguns sitting there, so. Evidently, they didn't want to be
they were
filmed.
thinking it was tied to that guy that robbed the bank.
Oh.
That was the next day.
Yeah, he didn't get enough money out of our vehicle, so he went round the bank, which kind of, you
Was
know,
the thought?
it would be creepy to think that you had somebody in your garage and shot him in the head, you know. Boy, he peeled his hide off.
Conservative.
Has some relationship to the guy that
Well, you know, the control, there's a lot of non-conservative stuff going on too. $50 worth of quarters, that woman lost her life. The way I heard it anyway, I don't know if that's true.
that's all he got.
That's what I heard.
Was she working at the bank?
Yeah, it's part-time worker at the bank, just getting to work.
Why was she outside? Oh, just getting there.
She's just getting here. And I don't know whether he opened up and the only thing they had access to at that time was the $50 worth of quarters or what. Suppose the cash was out of the drawers. I don't know if they take all the cash out and they need to change it. But,
Everything used to go in the vault when we were,
even the quarters, everything went in. The whole change drawer. So I don't know where the quarters come into play at. Maybe he got more too, and I just don't know. It's just the rumor that I've heard. I haven't heard it from any official source.
it's very sad.
But any amount of money, and then after she gives him the money, then he shoots her in the head. And he has got a rap sheet as long as your arm. Violence and
He was out.
armed with intent and and got out early. Somebody in their infinite wisdom, oh, well, we don't have to keep this guy in there.
I guess I'll entertain a motion for the payroll claims.
Good motion. I'll second.
Motion to accept, heard the second from Ken's vote for payroll claims, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say sign. Motion carries. We stand adjourned.